Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar on QTO4. My name is Manas Jans van Rensburg. I'm a senior technical consultant here at the CCS Centurion office in Gauteng, a city in South Africa. It is my pleasure to present this webinar to you. Today, I'll be showing you the functions and features of QTO4 and also discuss some of the enhancements on the way for QTO 4.1. Due to the large number of people logged into this webinar, we will not be able to answer any questions during this webinar. However, please submit your questions during the session with the provided function on screen. At the end of the webinar, we will collate these questions and send the answers to everybody that registered for the webinar via email. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and you'll receive a link to download it. There is a webinar once a month on various Candy topics. Should you not be able to attend the webinar at the given time frame, then please register for the webinar, as this will entitle you to receive a recorded copy of the webinar. Let's get started. So on today's agenda, we're going to look at an introduction to QTO4. Then a frequently asked question in our training is, how do we do deductions in QTO? So I'm going to show you that. Then drawing revisions, how do we handle drawing revisions? And then using measurement templates, updating the Candy bill of quantities, and then what can you expect from QTO 4.1? All right, so QTO at a glance. QTO is CCS's own electronic takeoff system that gives our clients the ability to do quick measurements from 2D drawings, PDFs, DWGs, etc. Set up measurement templates to speed up your measurements. Integrate these measurements directly into Candy's bill, actual, claimed, and final quantity. And then lastly, using Autodesk Navisworks Simulate or Manage, we can do 3D rendering and we can do some 3D takeoffs. All right, so the QTO basics. The QTO basics that I'm going to look at is calibrating your drawing using the counter tool, the length tool, the line segment tool, the area tool, the arch tool, the linking of the measurements to Candy, and some reports. So let's go into the system and demonstrate this to you. So firstly, I have my QTO4 webinar job over here. In this job, I have a bill of quantities with some items with 0 bill quantity. So I'm going to measure some of these items for the webinar. QTO is accessed under estimating under bill prep QTO manager, and then in valuations under advanced QTO manager. So if you're measuring estimating values, bulk values, for example, you'll do it under bill prep. In valuations, if you're measuring post tender, you can find it under advanced. I'm going to go to bill prep QTO manager. This QTO manager is then just where you have your list of QTO packages. The QTO packages is simply how you organize your measurements. So this measurement organization can be done using one package per project. It can be done using a package per trade. It can be done using a package per floor. There's really no right or wrong way of doing it. It's simply your choice of how you want to organize it. Just bear in mind that this is how you transfer the quantities to Candy. So I'm going to show you that a bit later. So you'll notice that if I double click on this package, it will start launching QTO. So this is how you open QTO. This is the only way of opening QTO4. QTO4, if you try and open it from your desktop icon, it will give you a message that says QTO cannot be launched in standalone. It needs to be launched within Candy. And there's two reasons for that. The one reason is we want all information to be stored in one central place. So if you open it from the QTO manager, then it will store all your QTO information in the Candy job file as well, except for your drawings. It will also allow you to integrate your measurements with Candy, and that is our primary reason. We don't want you to use it as a standalone measuring system. We want you to use it what it was intended for, and that is to link to your Candy bill of quantities. So over here, I have my measurement bill. I'm just going to click on that. I'll explain it in a bit. It just takes a little while to open. So while it opens up, let's look at the interface. At the top of the interface, I have my QTO application. It also tells me what QTO package I'm in, so QTO 4 and some zeros and a 2. On this side, I have my version number. On the next to the version number is an arrow key that I can use to collapse and expand my ribbon tab, which is what this is called. On the ribbon tab, I then have my takeoffs, my settings, my layouts, and my support. I'm going to take you through all of them in a bit now. So firstly, that measurement button that I clicked, it opens my Candy bill of quantities in a read-only format. You'll see you can't edit it here. Any changes needs to be made in the Candy bill, and then you can reflect it in QTO. QTO measurement bill is primarily used for linking measurements to Candy. as well as having a look at your proposed ball quantity, proposed actual quantity, etc. Next, we have our drawing list. So on the drawing list, you'll notice that when I click the drawing list, the attach button becomes active. So if I close it again, that attach button isn't active. So that attach button is obviously to attach drawings. I've attached one drawing already. If I slide to the side here, this is then where that drawing is stored. Now, this is the only important part, what I mentioned earlier about the drawing isn't saved in QTO. So QTO links to the path of the drawing. So normally I recommend that you create a folder for the project and you then do not move that drawings until the project is done. Otherwise, you're breaking the link between the drawing and QTO. If you do move the folders, we can reestablish the link, but I normally prefer that you do not break that link. So it links to the path. So that's the drawings. You can either click on attach to attach some drawings, or you can right click in your drawing area to attach some drawings. So I'm just going to attach some drawings by clicking there, going to where my folders are saved, my drawings are saved. And I'm going to attach this area deduction drawing as well as my ceiling layout. So I'm going to click there, click on open. You'll notice that the area deduction one only has one page, so it's automatically linked to QTO. The ceiling layout, however, has 3 pages. So then it gives you this page range option. So this is a new QTO4 function. If you click on this little eye, it will explain that page range. It works basically the same as printing. So I want to attach all 3 pages, so I'm going to click on OK, and that will then attach all of them. I am then going to click on folders. So this is simply how you organize your measurements, as well as it creates some layers on your drawings. So if you're in your ceilings folders, all the items in your drywall folder won't be visible. If you're in your brickwork folder, all the items in your painting folder won't be visible. So it just makes your drawings a bit easier to navigate. By default, there's always one folder in there. So to rename that folder, you'll just click on it. And then I'm going to call this one brickwork. Then I'm going to right click underneath brickwork and select new folder. You also can notice you can create subfolders, expand and collapse all your folders, or delete a folder. So I want to create a new folder. This folder is going to be my drywall. Underneath that, I'm going to right click new folder ceilings, and I'm going to right click new folder concrete. All right, so now that I have my folders in place, I'm then going to click on views. So views is simply if you want to store a snapshot or a quick reference point of your drawing. For example, your electrical drawing, your legend tells you what symbol is what. So this is a downlight, for example. So while you're measuring and you forget what does this symbol mean, you then can go to your legend, save that as a view set, and then double click on that view set whenever you need to refer back to it, and the system will jump to that view. Then you have your templates. So templates are used for repetitive measurements, items that occur on multiple floors, for example. Then your takeoff list is only active if you have a drawing open, and you have your report manager. Then I have my settings. On the settings, you have your quantity type. So I'm going to measure ball quantity. That's why ball is ticked. Otherwise, if I was measuring actual, claimed, or final, I can change my default quantity to either one of those. Then I have my render type. The render type is how your DWG drawings are rendered. So if you struggle to open a DWG drawing, you can go and change your render type and see if that helps. Then you have your decimal spaces. So this is how many decimals you see. I'm going to keep mine on 2. And then on the last one here, you have Navisworks, the button there. So what the Navisworks button does is you can have multiple versions of Navisworks installed. For example, 2018, 19, and 20. But QTO uses Navisworks 2018. So if you have multiple versions installed, this Navisworks button just gives you the ability to list all of them and then tick the box which one QTO needs to use for 3D rendering. Then you have your layouts. So on the layout, you have save, restore, and reset. So this refers to your interface layout that you see here. So if I change this, I click on it, I drag it, and I put it next to my templates over there, and I click on save, this will become my personalized default layout. If I click on OK and then click on reset, it will reset to the default layout when QTO is installed. If I click on restore, it will restore to the layout that I just saved. All right, so that's the layouts. Then on the support side, we have update. So this will check if there's a new version of QTO. Extend, so all our versions have an expiry date. So if you get a message that your version has expired and you, for example, need your IT to update your QTO, or you don't have internet access, you can give us a call and we can give you a code to extend that version. Then we have send. Send will send your support information to our developers. If you perhaps have an error in the system, then ask for help. So this is a new function in QTO 4. So this allows you, instead of giving us a call on support, it gives you the ability to send us a message. What is your issue? Fill in your email information, etc. And then we will receive an email and we'll contact you. So that is the ask for help. The check for errors. So that will go through your takeoff sheets and check if there's any formula errors. For example, you have a variable called thickness with a capital T. You then use it in the formula column with a lowercase t. That will then cause a formula error. So that check for errors will then go through your takeoff sheets and check for that. Then you have open database. That will open up your database. I would prefer that you leave that to our developers. I'm going to go back to my takeoff sheet. I'm going to open this first drawing that I already had attached here. You'll notice that this drawing has some measurements on it. So I've measured my 220 millimeter walls and my 110 millimeter walls. Once I open the drawing, the takeoff list is active. You'll see that I planned it perfectly, that these measurements is in my brickwork folder. And if I open the takeoff sheet for the 220 millimeter walls, you will then notice that on the top you have your dimensions. So that refers to your QTO dimensions. Underneath that you have your variables. Variables are items like height or thickness that you might want to create. The variable has a name, a quantity, a formula, a factor, a result, and obviously then a unit. I missed that one, and a comment. On the quantity, you can plug in a quantity. On the formula, you can calculate a value. You can't have both. So you can either have a plugged in value or a formula value. So an example of a formula value will be you want to measure the ceiling void. So you can then take your floor to slab height minus your floor to ceiling height, and the result will then be your void. So that's one example. Just remember, you can either have a formula or a quantity. You can't have both, and the formula will override the quantity. Then you have your takeoff detail linked to the BOQ. So over here I have on page 1 of my bull, item number 14, my 220 millimeter walls, and that has been linked to that length and that variable height, and that gave me the result there. If I go to my measurement bull over here, there's my 220 millimeters wall, and that result is then the same because I don't have any other brickwork measurements. So that's my proposed bull quantity. So let's do this now for some other items. So that's the drawing. You'll notice it has a little tick box there that shows you that the drawing has been calibrated. All these drawings that I just attached obviously are not calibrated. When you open the drawing for the first time, it's going to give you your unit settings. Because I already have a drawing attached here, I can't change from metric to imperial. Whenever you open your very first drawing, you'll select metric or imperial, and then you can't change from imperial to metric or vice versa. So that can only be selected once, so that's why this is grayed out. And you can also select your takeoff details in. I always keep mine in meters because otherwise I need to convert from millimeters squared to meters squared to transfer to my bull. So I always keep it in meters. Click on OK. That will open up the drawing. You'll notice that our PDF reader in QTO 4 is a bit faster. It's also a lot more crisp, and the quality is also very, very good. I'm then going to open my ceiling layout. It's going to give me the same option. I'm just going to click on OK. Remember, you can only change between metric and imperial when you open the very first drawing of the package, which I did when I did this first measurements before I started my webinar. Then you have all your drawings open now, and I am now going to take you through what we call the drawing tools. So I'm just going to switch to my takeoff list, and I'm going to start with this area deduction tool. So the very first step for the area deduction drawing, the very first step always should be to calibrate your drawing. This is still a computer, not a scale ruler. So to navigate your drawing, you roll your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. You press your mouse wheel down to pan your drawing. You can then click on the calibrate tool. It's going to ask you to select two predefined points. You can then click on start. I'll click there and I'll click there. It's going to give me this pop-up, and I'm going to tell it it's 805 millimeters. Click on end. Always remember that you can only have one scale per drawing. So if you have a drawing with multiple scales, you would have to copy the PDF, rename both the files, attach both the PDF drawings, have the one scale on the one drawing and the other scale on the other drawing, and then you can measure the one scale on the one drawing and the items on the other scale on the other drawing. Right, then I have this one, so I'm just going to also calibrate this one. So zoom into a known measurement, rolling my mouse wheel, click on calibrate, select start, click on where that point starts and ends, tell the system that it's 1200 and end. Another method I can use is I can press the plus key on my keyboard and the minus key on my keyboard will zoom out, so plus will zoom in. You'll see the quality there is very nice. If I click the minus, then it will zoom out. And if I want to pan my drawing, I can also use my arrow keys. So there's a known point. I can then click calibrate, click on start, select where this starts and ends, 1200 millimeters, click on end. I can then go to my last ceiling layout and I can then zoom in using either my arrow keys and my plus and minus or rolling my mouse wheel and pressing my mouse wheel down. I'll then select calibrate, and before I calibrate this drawing, I just want to show you that if the drawing is not calibrated and you try to measure, it's going to ask you, you need to calibrate this drawing first. Do you want to calibrate it now? And then it will, in any case, activate the calibrate tool. So you can't measure from a drawing if it has not been calibrated. All right, so now that I've done my calibration, I've mentioned you can only have one scale per drawing. I'm going to go to my ceiling layout, my very first one. So this is my first or my ground floor ceiling layout. So let's have a look here, my ground floor ceiling layout, and I'm going to do some measurements here. So first thing that I'm going to measure is a count tool. So the count tool, I'm going to rename it to, click on it and rename it to vertical abutments. Vertical abutments, I'm going to select a size here. You can notice that you can select the colors out of the standard colors, or you can click on more colors and you have then some more colors available there. I'm going to just leave it as is. Click on start. For the guys of you who are not aware, vertical abutments is where your brickwork and your partitioning or your concrete columns and your partitioning meet. So I just clicked on those 2 points. You'll notice the bottom corner of my screen, I've counted 2. If I click on the last point, you'll see that it tells me I've counted 3 of them, and I can then right click to end my measurement. Then you'll notice that my vertical abutments has been added to my takeoff list. I can then click on the next tool, which is the length tool. The length tool, I'm going to then call my drywall, and I'm going to make it a little bit slightly bigger. Click on start, and I'm then going to zoom in over here, and I will then click on this partition. You'll notice that as I measure, it gives me a value there at the bottom of 10.49 meters. If I right click, it ends the measurement. So to continue this measurement, there's various ways of doing it. I'm going to show you the first way, and that is going on the takeoff list to the item that you're measuring and clicking on this little tick next to it that says continue. Then you'll have the tool active again, and I can go here. Just note that I'm clicking my left mouse button where I want to put down a point. I'm not holding it down. I'm going to the next point, clicking where I'm changing direction, and then at the last point, I'm clicking again, and then I'm right clicking to end the measurement. So now you'll see I have my vertical abutments and I have my drywall measured. I did the count tool and the length tool. Next is the line segment tool. So the line segment tool, I'm going to click on it. I'm not going to use it for the webinar, so I'm just going to show you how it works. So I'm going to click on start, leave it on the default information. I'm going to come here, and you'll notice that how this tool works is it picks up where the line starts and ends on the PDF, and you can then just left click once to measure it. The bottom of my screen, 12.29 meters. I can then simply click on the ceiling grid if I wanted to measure it. And as I click, I then get the quantity. When I right click, it ends the measurement and it will add it to my takeoff list. Very important, the quality of your PDF file obviously determines the accuracy of this tool. So I'm going to right click on it. You'll notice when you right click, you can open the takeoff sheet, edit, copy, paste special, which will exclude the markup. I'll show that a bit later. Zoom to the section, change the default quantity type, and delete. So I'm going to delete it. And you might have noticed that I did not switch folders while I was measuring. Now I did this on purpose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these items, right click on it, select copy, click on my drop down, go to my drywall folder, right click and paste. You'll notice that it moves the measurements to this folder, and then when you copy and paste, in this case, you need to always remember to come back to the other folder and just delete the items so that you don't have multiple measurements. So now that it's in my correct folder, next I'm going to go to my ceilings folder. You'll notice, as I mentioned, when you switch folders, the items in the other folders won't be visible, so my drywall isn't visible anymore. I'm then going to go to the top over here. I'm going to select my next tool, which is my area tool, and I'm going to rename this to 1200 by 600 ceilings, and I'm going to click on start. Then I'm going to go to this corner over here and I'm going to start measuring. Remember, I'm pressing my mouse wheel down to move my drawing around, and I'm rolling my mouse wheel to zoom in and out. You can also use your arrow key on your keyboard and your plus and minus key on your keyboard to zoom in and out. Also very important to remember, I'm left clicking everywhere where I'm changing direction, but I'm not holding my mouse button down. If you, for example, while you measure, click on the wrong space, like there, for example, you can press escape on your keyboard. That will remove the last point that you put down. If I press escape again, I can go back as far as I want to until I reach where I start my measurement. I'm just going to continue here, and I am then going to measure my ceiling over here. Now I made another mistake. I'm also going to make a mistake on purpose there, and when I get to the last point, which was that one, I can then right click to end my measurement. When you select your measurement, you'll notice that all those points that I've put down gets activated. Another way that you can fix a mistake then is to go to that point after you've measured, click once to pick it up and once to put it down again, and then you have fixed it. My ceiling there, 236.93. Okay, so that is then the area tool. Next we have the arch tool. So how the arch tool works is, I'm just going to show it. So I'm going to click start. I'm going to do a random measurement here, and you'll see it creates half a circle. When I open the takeoff sheet for that half a circle, you'll see that it gives you the area, the length, as well as the radius. So you can use that circle or the arch tool for circular measurements. So I'm just going to delete that measurement. As I mentioned, I do not require it for the webinar. Another method that you can use to do circular measurements, this is only when you are busy with an area tool. So I'm just going to use this door as an example. So what you can do is you can select your area tool there and click on continue. So I'm just going to use that as my example, and then you zoom in and you do small incremental clicks along the side of the circular area, and that will then allow you to go at an arch like that. So I can then move the points if I need to. I'm just going to, so there's another way of doing circular measurements. I'm just going to delete that because I do not require it. So that is another example. Then you have your length tool. So the length tool, or your ruler tool, sorry. The ruler tool is then if your site team comes and asks you what is the length between these two columns. So you don't really need to measure anything there. So you click on your ruler tool, click on those 2 points, and it shows you there 7.99 meters. When you right click to end that measurement, it also gets copied to your clipboard if you need to use it somewhere as a calculation. Then I'm going to also right click on this area tool and click on continue. The next tool that I'm going to show you is the snapping tool. So what the snapping tool does is it follows your predefined lines on your PDF. So you'll notice if I click on this corner to start measuring, and I then try and go at a certain degree angle to measure there where my mouse is at the moment, for example, the system won't allow me. It's following the PDF lines. So if I want to go at any direction, I can switch off the snapping by clicking that box, and then it will allow me to go at any direction. I'm not going to do any measurement there. So I'm going to right click to end the measurement and turn my snapping back on. Next, we have the drawing or the measurement realign. So if you get a drawing revision and this building has shifted, for example, you can click on the realign. It picks your measurements up. You can then take your measurements and move it accordingly. it will then, when you click to put it down, ask you, do you want to save the realignment? You can then click on OK if you want to. Obviously, I don't want to, so I'm going to click on cancel. And we'll put it back to where it was. You can also move individual area measurements. So if I click on this area measurements, you'll notice there's a yellow button there in the middle. If I click on it, I can then go and move it. So if I move it there, for example, you can also then go and move it back to realign it with your drawing. Okay, so that is then that. Then you have the select tool. So it might happen that you have a measurement on top of a measurement and you're struggling to select it, because normally your left click should select the measurement. But if you're struggling to select the measurement, you can click the select tool and then click on it. It will select it. It will normally help you to be a bit more accurate. Then you have rectangular zoom, so that will just zoom into the rectangular section that you've selected. Reset your zoom, which will reset your zoom. Zoom in will do the same as your plus key on your keyboard. Zoom out will do the same as your minus key on your keyboard. Then you have your pan tool. So if you don't like using your arrow keys or you're pressing your mouse wheel down to pan your drawing, you can click on the pan tool. That will activate it. You can then go to where you want to measure and right click to end that pan tool. Plot drawing, that will print your drawing as you has it open at the moment. Rotate your drawing clockwise and anti-clockwise. So if you get a drawing that is at a different rotation than what you wanted, you can then rotate it until you're happy, and QTO will then store that, so next time when you open it, it will be at that rotation. Then rotate your markup. So this is quite nice. If you get a drawing and the building has been rotated, then you can rotate the measurements that you currently have so that it can suit the building that has been shifted, so you don't need to redo your measurements. Then we have the layers. So this PDF doesn't have layers, but if your PDF or DWG has layers, you can then switch them on or off, make them visible or not visible. And then lastly, we have the text annotation tool that allows you to make text annotations on your drawing. So next, I need to link these measurements to Candy. So I'm going to click on my drop down. I'm going to go back to my drywall. So to link the measurements, there's various ways. So the first way is to click on the takeoff sheet next to the item and just put your takeoff sheets over here. Go to your measurement bill. Take the item that you want to measure, my 700 high partition, hold my click down, drag and drop that onto the formula column, and partitions is measured in meters, so I just take my length and put it in the formula column, and then I'm done. I can then click on next. The vertical abutments, then you can right click on the item you want to measure, select link to takeoff, and that will link it to the current takeoff sheet you have open, and you can then simply drag and drop that into the number column. I can then close this, go to my takeoff list, switch to my ceilings folder, open my takeoff sheet, and the last method that you can use to link is then by clicking on the takeoff detail link to the BOQ in the description column. It will activate a drop down. On that drop down, it will then have a drop down version of your bill of quantities. You can then go and click the item you want and simply take the formula dimension that you require and drag and drop that into the formula column. You could have also typed it, so you could have typed in the area. I prefer the drag and drop, so I'm going to just do that again. It calculates the result. Then I'm going to close this takeoff sheet, and that is then how you link the measurements to Candy. Next, we're going to do the reports. So first report I'm going to show you is the plot drawing. I'm just going to click on it, give it a name here, ceilings, click on save. What this will do is the current drawing that I have open with the current measurements will be printed to a PDF file. So you'll see it creates this. Normally, when clients ask me what do I recommend they use to go to a measurement discussion, I would say this drawing, plot drawing tool, and then I also tell them to go to the report manager, click on it, click on this little triangle. There's 3 reports. I'm going to start with the bottom one. So what this report does is it allows you to print per folder. So I'm going to select my folder, ceilings, and click on preview. What this will then do is it will print all the measurements that you have in your ceilings folder with the color and the items that they have been linked to. So you'll get this preview screen. You can print this, quick print it. change page settings, navigation, zoom, etc. Change the page background, the page color, export this to PDF or Excel. You can also email this or close it. So what this gives you is the takeoff, the name of the takeoff, the color, the results, then all those dimensions that was underneath it, as well as the candy item that it's been linked to, how it's been linked, and then the result. So this together with that PDF file, you can then use that to go and discuss quantities, because this shows the color, the PDF file shows where it was measured. Next report is exactly the same, it just works per drawing. So I'm going to select my revision A drawing that I measured before the webinar. I'm going to click on preview, and that then prints all the measurements that is on that drawing. It also gives you the calculations, as I mentioned, how it was linked, the color, etc. So it's per folder or per drawing. The last one is then your bill of quantities. I want to print measured only full quantity, and I want to preview that. What that will do is it will print your bill of quantities with the quantity that you have selected shown on there, and it also shows only the items that I have measured so far. If I click on close, this report has a second function, and that is the takeoff detail in a tabular format. Click on preview. This report then shows you your takeoff detail broken down into more detail. So you have your bill quantity over here linked to that bill item, and you have your number, length, area, perimeter, and radius, as well as your formula and your results and your remarks. So this prints your takeoffs sheet onto your bill pretty much. So the best example to look at is your brickwork. So on my brickwork, I had a length of 132.86 meters. In the formula column, I multiplied it by a height of 3, and that is how I got to the result of 398 that was transferred to Candy. So that is then the reports for QTO, and I believe that is the end of this section. All right, next we're going to look at deductions. So in this webinar, I'm going to show you 2 examples of handling quantity deductions on the takeoff sheet. The first one is going to be deducting some windows from brickwork, and the second one is going to be deducting an opening from concrete. Again, you can use this example on various other examples. I'm just going to use this specific example, but it will work for other deductions as well. So let's demonstrate this. Back in QTO, I'm going to go to this revision A drawing that I did. I'm going to switch to my brickwork folder. So I have this, and the example that I'm going to do is I'm going to deduct window 2 as well as window 4 from my brickwork. So how I'm going to do this is, you could have used the template, but I only have this one drawing, so I don't require a template. But if your windows was appearing on multiple floors, you could have used a template, but I'm just going to use the count tool. I'm then going to call this my W2. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, click on start, and I'm going to count my window 2. So there's 1 and there's 2. Right click to end the measurement. You'll see it adds my window 2 to my takeoff sheet. I'll then open my takeoff sheet for window 2, or my takeoff list. I'll open my takeoff sheet. I'll go and link this to my 220 millimeter wall, and in the formula column, I'm going to say number multiplied by 0.9, which is the height of the window. And then I realized I do not have the window schedule for this item, and I do not know the height of the window. So I'm going to close my takeoff sheet, click on my ruler tool, go to window 2, click where it starts and where it ends, right click to end the measurement, open up my takeoff sheet again, in the formula column times, and I'm just going to paste, and QTO obviously copied that to my clipboard. And then in the formula column, I'm going to put in -1. You'll then see that it creates a result there, which is a deduction value. I could have also used a variable for this height and length of the window. I'm just going to close the takeoff sheet. Next, I'm going to measure window 4, but I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So first things first, I know I'm going to need the length of the window, so I'm going to click on the ruler tool, and I'm going to measure the length of my window 2. Right click, click on OK, and of my window 4. I'm then going to right click on my window 2, copy, right click on my takeoff sheet, paste special, and I'm going to exclude the markup. You'll then notice that it creates another item. I can then right click on it, select edit, and rename this to window 4. I can then select a size there, click on save. I can also, on the takeoff detail, change the name as well as the color if I want to. I'm going to make it green there, and you'll notice there it changes to window 4. I can then simply click on this tick box to measure. You'll notice that it copied the window, but it didn't copy the quantity. So I can then measure window 4. There's one there and one there. Right click to end the measurement. It will then give me 2. I'll then open the takeoff sheet, and I know that window 2 is also 900 block high. So I'll just, okay, I already copied and pasted, so I need to go back and do my ruler tool again, because obviously the clipboard information has been removed. So right click, copy to clipboard, and then open the takeoff sheet for window 4, and then remove the window 2 length, multiply by the window 4 length. The -1 is still there. It deducts a value of 3.19. Close that. If I then open the takeoff sheet for my window 2, you'll notice that the result there is 398.59. If I go to my measurement ball, the proposed ball quantity is 390.29. So you can see that there's about 9 square meters that has been deducted using these two windows. Then doing an area deduction, I'm going to go to this drawing that I attached earlier, and I'm just going to simply use, for time's sake, this small little room, and I'm going to deduct the staircase opening from the concrete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a area tool. I'm going to call this my concrete. Click on start. You'll notice that at the bottom, while you're measuring, it shows you what folder you're in. So I realize now that I'm in the brickwork folder. I'm going to right click to end the measurement, switch to the correct folder first, and then do my area tool, and I'll call it concrete again. And I will then simply click on the perimeter of this room to measure the floor. Right click to end the measurement. I'll then do another area measurement, stairs, and I will then measure my staircase opening, and again right click to end the measurement. Then I have these two measurements. I open the takeoff sheet, I create a variable thickness 0.2, and I then say meters. I then go to my ball length. I select my concrete in floors. I then say that the area multiplied by the thickness. So then I'll get my operation sign, will give me the result. Click on next. I'll do another variable. I could have also used the copy and paste method that I showed you earlier. I then select my meters. On the drop down, I select my concrete in floors again. I then take the area of my staircase. It's sometimes a bit difficult to select the dimensions, and I take my variables and multiply that, and in the factor column I put a -1. So then again you'll notice that it creates a -1, a -0.83 result. If I go to my takeoff sheet and I open my concrete, you'll see that the value here is 2.19, but if I go to my measurement bill, the value is 1.36. So the two is being deducted from each other. Right, next, drawing revisions. For this, I'm just simply going to do a demonstration. So I'm going to go back to QTO. I'm going to close this deduction drawing because I don't require it for the rest of the webinar. I'm then going to go to my takeoff sheet, switch to my brickwork folder on this revision A drawing, and I will then go to my drawing list. On the drawing that I want to revise, I will right click, select revise, And this is pretty cool. So it asks you to revise the path. Yes, I want to revise the path. I will then select my revision B drawing, click on open, and the system will then give me a warning. You are changing this drawing. It will also close the drawing. I am aware of that. Click on yes. You'll notice that the drawing loses its calibration when you click there on yes. That is simply so that you make sure that the new drawing has the same calibration. I can then again see this unit settings, click on OK, and you'll notice then that it opens my new drawing. And the very first step always then is to calibrate it. So I'll click on calibrate, I'll click on start, and I will select a predefined point 4720, click on end, and now I can go and investigate what has changed. So one of the first things that I see that has changed is this wall, 110 brick wall, has been shifted. So what you can do is you can simply just click on those existing grip points and move them according to the new wall. This one has also been moved and made shorter, so you can move that. This one has also been moved to there, so this room has obviously been made a bit bigger. This one has been entirely deleted, so you can right click on it, select delete. You can right click on this one, select delete. This one has also been deleted, so you can right click on it and select delete. And then if it was a continuous measurement like that, you can just go to your 110 brick wall again, select continue, and then obviously delete the section that you measure the section that you accidentally deleted with the other one. You can then click continue again and add this portion, for example, right click to end that measurement. Then you can also move this wall. So this wall has been shifted and it's also been made slightly a bit shorter, so you can just move your points according to the new measurements, so you don't have to re-measure everything. You can then right click continue because this section over here has been added, so you can measure that, right click to end the measurement. Then this section also has been added, so again I'm just continuing adding that, right click to end. This has been added, a 220 wall, so I select my 220 wall, right click, continue, and I then measure this wall. And you can then simply go, you'll notice that this has been opened up. So the easiest way would be to right click, insert point, right click, insert point again, and I can then take these points that I've inserted, and that's another method that you can do it. So I need another point, so I'll do insert point there and move that point there, right click, insert point, and move that point there. So now I've taken out that section. I can also right click, continue, and add that to my 220 walls. All right, so now that I have most of my revisions, there's a section that I missed. I can right click, continue on my 220 millimeter walls and just add that. So if I zoom out, it looks like I have most of my revised items measured. If I go to my takeoff list, you'll see that the values have changed. If I go to my measurement ball, you'll remember this was 390 point something. Now it's 418, so that has been increased. So quick and easy to measure revised drawings. You can just move your measurements accordingly. If I zoom in here, I notice that there's another section that has been removed that I missed. So zooming out always helps. So this section, I can delete that point and I can move this point to here. Right, so zooming out, it looks like I got everything now. I'm pretty sure you guys get the concept. So that is then revising drawings. Next, QTO templates. So templates is used to measure repetitive items like brickwork that occur on multiple floors, for example. I'm going to create a template, use that template to measure. I'm then going to show you how to create a template from an existing measurement. And I'm also going to show you how to update a template when there is revisions or changes to the template information. I'm going to switch back to QTO. I'm going to close this revision B drawing as I'm not going to require this at this stage. I'm going to go to my first floor ceiling layout. I'm going to go to my measurement folders, select my ceilings so that I have that measurements visible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my templates tab and I'm going to remove it and I'm going to drag it and put it at the bottom of my screen here, and I'm going to have my template so that I have this view. I'm then going to right click on the template area, select new template. I'll give it a code 01, and this will be my flush plaster ceiling, and this is obviously an area tool. Click on OK, and that will create the template. Now the templates work a bit differently. The templates you open up first and link them to Candy. So on my template, I'm going to link this to my flush plaster rhino board ceiling as well as my plaster trim. So the plaster trim is what helps keep the flush plaster ceiling secured to the wall or to the bulkhead, depending on what it is attached to. So the flush plaster ceiling needs to take the area in the formula, and the plaster trim needs to take the perimeter. I can then close this template, and then to measure this template, I can simply drag and drop it onto my takeoff sheet. Click on the tick box to start the tool, and I'm going to measure the male ablutions over here, and I can then simply go and click around the male ablutions. Remember, every time I change direction, I'm putting down a grip point. So while I measure this, I'm just panning my drawing as well. I know that these walls are going from floor to ceiling height, so I can measure over them. And as I finish my measurement, I can then, when I get to the last point, right click. When I open up this takeoff sheet for the flush plaster ceiling, you'll see that it already is linked to the Candy items. It already has a result. If I go to my measurement bill, you'll see that there's my 23.6 squares on the rhino board ceiling. If I then go to my second floor, I can simply do the same. So I take my template, drag it on, click continue, and I can then go to the male ablutions and simply measure this. So it's already linked to Candy once you're done, and it's also very quick to make changes if there's any items that might have changed or an item that you might have forgot. So I'm going to show you that in a little bit. I'm just quickly going to finish this measurement so that I have a little bit more values when I transfer my values to Candy. All right, so there I have my ceilings measured. Remember, if you have some major mistakes, you can pick up those grip points and change it. It also gives you the value when you have it selected at the bottom of your screen. So that is templates. Speeds up. You'll go to the next floor, drag that template in and measure it. It's already linked to Candy. If I go to my measurement bowl, you'll see that 23 is now 47. All right. Next is then using an existing item to create a template. So I measured my 1200 by 600 ceilings on this floor. I came to the next floor and I noticed that it's the exact same ceilings. So I'm then going to go and select the ceiling on the ground floor, open the takeoff sheet. I'm then going to go tools, copy to template. Once you're done doing that, it is just important to remember to go to that item on the takeoff sheet, scroll to the side, and on the template code column, just allocate that template that was just created to it. Otherwise, if you need to make any changes to this information, the template, this item will not be changed. I can then go to my second floor, drag my template onto my takeoff sheet, select continue, and I can then measure this flush plaster ceiling, 1200 by 600 ceiling, as you see it over here. Just putting down my grip points and right click to end the measurement. Now I open up this takeoff sheet and I realize that I forgot to add my shadow line to this item. So that is then updating a template. So I'll open up this template sheet. I will then select the drop down, select my shadow line, and that needs to take my perimeter. I can then click on tools and override this takeoff items. So you can do two examples of this. The first example would be if you realize that you forgot to link a bill item to the template. The second one would be if you have some variables like thickness, for example, and you get the engineer detail and the detail says that the thickness has changed since you've done the measurement. You can then change the variable, update the items. So if I select override takeoff items, click on OK and go back to my takeoff list and open up this takeoff sheet. the SM25 will then be added with the result as on this floor as well as on this item. Okay, so that is then templates, creating them, using them, creating a template from an existing item and updating it. Next, updating the candy bill of quantities. So you can either update your candy bill quantity, actual quantity, claim quantity, or final quantity. So let's have a look at how you do that. I'm going to close QTO. You do not have to do this, but I am just going to do so. After I've closed QTO, to transfer the quantities, I'm just going to show you first. I have a document here that is called 5.1 QTO bill of quantities, and you'll notice that this document is empty at this stage. I'll then click on Bill Prep, QTO Manager, right-click on this package that I've been measuring in for the webinar, select Transfer the Quantities. It's going to tell me the quantities have been transferred to the BOQ. Click on OK. If I close this and click on this document, you'll notice that my values has been transferred. Over here, I have my quantity, I have my type, the QTO package code, the drawing name, then the reference. So that is the folder the measurement is in, and the name of the measurement, and then the time and date that this transfer has been done. So that is then your QTO columns. We do not automatically transfer these quantities into whatever you define them to be. And there's multiple reasons for that. The first one is, if we automatically do that, we might override items that do not have measurements. So this item might have had a manually typed in measurement, and then when I transfer, QTO changes it to 0. So that's the first reason why. If you think of your first page items, P's and G's, all of that won't have QTO measurements. If you then transfer your quantities, if we do that for you and we zero all of that out, it's going to be quite frustrating. So we do not want to do that for you. The second reason is, even though I define this as bulk quantity, I might be using it for a different purpose. For example, I have multiple buildings, block A, B, and C, and block A I'm measuring as bull, block B I'm measuring as claimed, and block C I'm measuring as actual. So you could have a different method of using this, and therefore we do not do that transfer for you. We leave it up to you. It's very easy, but we do not do it for you. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transfer these quantities to my bill column. So you'll notice that there's two measurements here. When I transfer it, it's going to give me the cumulative value. I also do not want to change items that don't have QTO measurements. So it is going to be tedious to select the items using Control and Shift the items that have QTO measurements. So normally what I do is I right-click on the quantity, select Filter, Start New Filter, and I want to look for quantities on the QTO column that is greater than 0, green tick, hide rejects, and now it will only show me my QTO items. When I then select these items, right-click, I have an option to update the bill from QTO. I can then select my QTO bill quantity, green tick. I know that's 0 there, so I can override. Or if you're doing a monthly valuation and you have claim 1's values in there, you can override it with claim 2's value. You'll then notice that it transfers the cumulative value of these two items. You also have an option on the quantity column to round up the quantity. So if I select that, I'll have nicely neated rounded quantities. All right, so that is then updating the quantities from QTO to Candy. And I am then going to go back to my PowerPoint, and the last thing that we're going to look at is what can you expect from QTO 4.1. That would be your drawing tool patterns, your markup transparency, your search text box on your takeoff sheet, your dragging and dropping of templates directly onto the drawing, remembering your BOQ item location on the takeoff sheet, remembering the BOQ location for the previously linked item on the takeoff sheet, double clicking on your markup to open the takeoff sheet, multiple item selection on the BOQ, escape key for a single markup realign, and then the compare tool. So let's have a look at that. Back in Candy, I'm going to go to Bill Prep, QTO Manager, double click there, and you'll notice that it launches QTO 4.1. Once QTO is loaded, it is the same QTO package that I've been using earlier. So I'm not going to go through everything, obviously. Again, the only change is the compare tool over here, and under this, the compare tool over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up all these items that I opened up earlier. And I'm going to go to my drawing list. I'm going to open my first floor ceiling layout, and I'm going to show you the items here. So, or let's rather use the second floor ceiling layout. Sorry about that. So on my second floor ceiling layout, I'm going to zoom in to my drywall over here, and I'm going to click my length tool. And you'll notice that on the length tool, there's a second option here, which is then the line type. You then have a center line option, a hidden line, phantom line, and a broken line. So if I take the hidden line option, for example, I'll again call this my drywall, click on start, and then I can measure my wall, but you'll notice that it creates a dotted line instead of a continuous line that it did earlier. If I select this measurement and select edit, you can then see, again, I'm just going to emphasize the full line, center line, hidden line, phantom line, and broken line. So that is then the drawing tool patterns that I mentioned there earlier. I'm then going to go to my takeoff list. On the takeoff list, I will open up the takeoff sheet for this drywall. Again, it is in the wrong folder, so I can right click on it, and QTO 4 has the option, 4.1 has the option to cut. So that's not even on my list. If I go to my drywall folder and I paste, it then moves that measurement to the drywall folder, and I don't need to go back to the brick wall folder to move it. So you can either copy and paste between folders, or you can copy and paste between, or cut and paste between folders. So I'm going to open the takeoff sheet for this item. And on the takeoff sheet, I'm then going to click on the drop down and select my 1200 2700 millimeter high partition. If I click on the drop down again, you'll notice that that item is still selected. So that is what I meant by remembering the BOQ location on the takeoff sheet. If I go to the second item and I then go to the second line, you'll see it already has this next item selected, my abutments. So I can then just simply go and link this to my length as well as my number, if that was the correct value for my abutments. In this case, it isn't. I'm going to also delete that abutments because this is only my partitions. So that is then remembering the BOQ location on the item. Next item on the list, if you click on the drop down, you'll notice that there's a search function. So instead of having to look for that 2700, I could have actually typed it in there and the system finds it for me. Okay, so I don't want the abutments here again, so I'm just going to delete that, close this takeoff sheet, and I will then go to my first floor drawing because I just need a few area measurements. I'm then going to click on my measurement folders, switch to my ceilings, and I'm then going to go to my template list. And the next item I want to show you is dragging and dropping your templates directly onto the drawing. So it's quite frustrating to having to move your templates to the bottom of your screen over here and then dragging your templates onto your takeoff sheet and then clicking continue to measure. So another method that you could have used is you could have simply clicked on, in QTO 4.1, you can click on the template, drag and drop it onto the drawing, and then you'll notice that the template is active, and I can then simply go and measure my item as you see it over here. Right. Next, I'm going to go to the ceiling layout again, and I'm going to do a new area measurement, also for my 1200 by 600 ceilings, but I'm going to just do it at a different color, and I'll show you why a bit later. because I need a new template, a new measurement, so that point there is put down incorrectly. So I can just use escape, and I'm just quickly measuring this. Right click to end the measurement. If I then open the takeoff sheet for this measurement that I did, then I'm going to show you the dragging and dropping multiple items from the BOQ. So if I go to my measurement bill, I can then select my 1200 by 600 ceilings, press Control on my keyboard or Shift, and I can select my shadow line. I can also select more than that. I can also Shift select this and these items. So if this one item was supposed to be linked to all 4 of these items, I can Control select them. I only need the first 2, so I'm going to Control select those 2, right click on them, select link to takeoff, and then both of these items are linked. So this is also to speed up. I can then just go and drag and drop that onto the formula column. All right, so that is then selecting multiple items. Let's have a look here on the settings. When I have my takeoff list of my drawing open, I have a button here that says turn transparency off. So if I turn my transparency off, you'll notice that it does something. These area measurements, all is very, very visible at the moment. If I turn my transparency on, you'll notice that only the measurement that I have selected at the moment is a darker color. So if I switch to this one, for example, the other 2 will be more transparent. And if you don't want that function, you can just switch it off. So that is then the drawing to after takeoff transparency. So let's just go through the list again. I showed you the tool patterns on the length tool. I showed you the transparency. I showed you the search box on the takeoff sheet. I showed you the dragging and dropping the template onto the drawing. I showed you the remembering of the location on the takeoff sheet. I showed you that when you go to the next item on the takeoff detail linked, it will go to the next item after the one that you've selected above that. I did not show you the double clicking on the takeoff. So if I want to open the takeoff sheet, I can over click on this book, or I can right click and select takeoff sheet open. Now, this is a bit tedious. So in QTO 4.1, we decided to create it that you can double click on the takeoff and that will open the takeoff sheet. Then I showed you the multiple item selection on the BOQ. So remember, you can either shift click arrange, or you can control click arrange if there's multiple items that need to be linked to one measurement. After you've selected it, right click to link to takeoff. Okay, and then the escape key to realign a single markup realign. So if I showed you earlier, if I move this takeoff and then I realize I don't want to move it, I can press escape and that will put it back. So that's the escape key to undo a single markup realign. And I forgot to mention this before I show you the very last item. I'm going to go to my drawing list, open my 3rd floor drawing. And the following that I can show you, you can do already in QTO 4.0 and 4.1. So I just forgot to mention it earlier. So you can, I showed you to copy and paste between drawings, but you can actually copy and paste between folders. But in QTO 4.0 and 4.1, you can copy and paste between drawings as well. So what I can do is, I've noticed that these ceilings are actually a exact replica. So I can go to my 3rd floor, my 2nd floor first, select my measurement, select copy, go to my 3rd floor, right click, paste. And that will then paste the measurement in this folder. And I can then just use my drawing realign tool to realign this measurement with where it should be. So that is then also a quick way to do measurements that have been repeated. And again, I just forgot to show this, but you can copy and paste already between drawings in QTO 4.0. You do not have to wait for QTO 4.1. All right, the last tool that I then am going to show you in QTO 4.1 is then the compare drawing tool. So if I click on that, that will give me the screen. I just want to see the full thing, so I'm just going to close these tabs down here. And this is then where you can compare revisions. So remember that item that I did earlier. I'm going to select that revision A drawing that I had linked when I opened QTO the first time. I'm going to select my revision B drawing that I revised it to earlier, and I'm going to click on compare. It's then going to open another tab. On this tab, the red represents the changes of the first PDF, the blue represents the second PDF, and anything in black is items that remain the same. So I can then zoom in here and I can see all those changes. There's that wall that shifted, there's that wall that was removed. So this is very, very cool. If you click on Save Comparison, you can then save this as a PDF file, and then you can go to your drawing list and attach that comparison, and you can do measurements from that if you would want to, demolition, additions, etc. Or you can just keep this as a reference, right click on the drawing, revise, and then do what I showed you earlier. Thank you very much for your time. I trust you have a better insight into the capabilities of QTO4 and what to expect for QTO in the future. Please email your queries to your local CCS office if you want to know more about QTO. We will keep you informed of the next webinar. And remember, if you are unable to attend the webinar at the mentioned time, please register for the webinar and you will receive a copy of the recording, which you can then view at a later time based on your convenience. Have a great day. Goodbye for now. Thank you.